Hey guys, it's me, the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar, and welcome to Rajshri Food. Well, of course, I'm going to show you a recipe today, but let me start with a life story. I started in a home kitchen very young. I was 8 years old when I told my father that I want to become a chef. Well, today I've been working for the last 18 years in the industry, and that's all thanks to him because he was the one who actually literally held my little finger and took me to a hotel management school. Well, I've picked up a lot of recipes from him, and today's recipe is his special. This is something that he used to make for us when we were children. Well, cooking for a lot of you could be rocket science because, of course, you could be new in the kitchen, you may have picked up a recipe for the first time, but let me assure you, today's recipe is a breeze, but you need to follow every step the way I show you. Well, kitchen is all about getting it time and again correct with practice and persistence. On that note, let me begin with a very simple recipe today, and that is baked pasta. Let's begin. Now, the first thing that I like making always is the sauce. Then I move on to cooking the pasta, and finally we'll add in some cheese and bake it. So let's begin with making the sauce. The first thing that goes is butter. To this we add in equal quantities of refined flour, which is also known as maida or all-purpose flour. We cook this on low flame to begin with and then gradually increase the flame to ensure that it becomes nice, nutty and aromatic, but ensure that it does not get burnt. While the butter and flour is getting cooked, I'm going to add in garlic and along with this, chopped red onions. Well, I like adding personally onions and garlic at this stage because the sauce becomes beautifully aromatic. We need to cook this on low flame, but we also need to ensure that we constantly keep stirring this because we do not want this to neither discolor nor get burnt. Once this is done, we'll start adding in milk a little at a time. Ensure that you keep adding little at a time and not everything together because you do not want this to convert into a lumpy mass. Simultaneously and gradually, you will realize and notice that this is also thickening because the flour in this case acts as a thickener. At this stage, we start adding in the seasoning, the spices and the flavorings. To begin with, dried oregano. Well, you can also use fresh by all means. Next is chilli flakes. And finally, we add in freshly cracked black peppercorns. Add in some salt. Mix all of this well, and if you see, the sauce is cooking wonderfully well. With this, your white sauce is done and ready. Now, because it's a baked dish and a baked pasta dish, I love adding in some fresh vegetables. Now, I have taken exotic vegetables. By all means, you can choose the vegetables that you like. Now, these are of course vegetables that are washed, cut, and I've just given it a little bit of a blanch in hot water. Let's mix all of this well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook the vegetables in the sauce itself. So for this, I'm going to add in a cupful of water. Increase the flame and cook this till it gets a nice roaring boil. The next step is to allow this to cook on high flame for some around 2 to 3 minutes so that the vegetables become just right. The next step is moving on to pasta. Let's see how to cook it. Whenever I walk into a store, I head straight to the pasta counter and pick this up. Well, this is WeikFEILD fusilli pasta. And I picked this up for several reasons. Primarily because it is made with 100% durum semolina, which of course makes it a healthy option because of the fibers and proteins. Secondly and most importantly, because it comes from one of the most trusted brands in India for the last 6 decades, WeikFEILD. On that note, let's show you how to cook this. Very important, snip the packet. Once the water comes to roll boil, you need to add in a cup of pasta. Now, the water that I had taken was 1 liter. I added 1 teaspoon of salt, allowed it to boil on high flame. Only once it starts boiling, you add in the pasta and boil it for 10 to 12 minutes. Remember that, you never burn it. It's been 10 minutes now, and I personally like my pasta a little al dente, which is a little undone. But anyway, you need to cook the pasta till it's 3/4 done or 3/4 cooked, because the next step is assembling all of this and baking this, and it's going to further cook. So you need to retain that. Okay. Now if you see, the pasta has become nice and plump. It is almost doubled. It has also retained its shape and color. That's also one of the reasons why I use WeikFEILD pasta. Remember what I told you earlier? This is made using durum wheat, and durum wheat has good amount of gluten. And what happens because of gluten? The pasta dough becomes perfect, and that also results in a very good textured pasta. If you notice, what have I done? I made the sauce first, I blanched the pasta, or I cooked the pasta second, and I'm now pulling it out of the salted water and adding it straight into the sauce. What happens in this case is, you do not have to cool down the pasta, you do not have to add in additional oil, and what happens in this case is that it just hastens up the process. The next step is to mix all of this well. And you know what? Your baked pasta is actually done and ready, because your job is done. The last thing is to transfer all of this into a baking dish or a casserole, add in some cheese, and it goes in the oven. Finally, like I said, time to add in cheese. Now this is grated cheese. The next step is to bake this in an oven 200 degrees Celsius for 12 minutes. With this, the baked pasta is done and ready. It's simple, it's wholesome, and it's literally a meal in itself. You do not need anything else to go with this. Now, if you're making this for the first time, just follow the recipe blindly, and trust me, you're going to thank me later. The pasta is going to be super creamy, it's going to be authentic and wonderfully tasty. It's wonderfully creamy and authentic. And for more such recipes, stay tuned.